let's start with young Mark wondering what he's going to do with his life. What did you think you were going to do when you were a teenager and starting to think about the future?
I kind of thought I was going to end up in a gang. I was really worried I was going to end up in a gang.
Like a scooter gang, or
like a street gang or something. No. I was I kind of always knew I wanted to make video games ever since I was like 11 or 12 years old, because I played Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. And actually, going back even further, I moved around a lot growing up. Like my dad worked for the Department of Defense, so we lived in a bunch of different places. And so like, I couldn't really establish any meaningful long-term friendships, because I was a giant dork, and I was moving like every 2 or 3 years. So I ended up playing video games. Those were my friends, And in like 99 or 2000, I played The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. And that was the first game that I played where I really felt like I was in a whole nother world. So I was like, man, I want to make my own world, because it was like an escapism thing. Like I wanted to make my own world to escape to. Like, and I couldn't make games right away, but I wrote like choose your own adventure books, and I had like journals full of these like really terrible choose your own adventure books. Yeah. And it was almost like I was trying to be like my own dungeon master, basically, because I would read them and play it in my head. Like I would take, I would have like a little inventory and money, and I'd have shops and vendors, and I would just play it. I would play my own games and really get into it. And so that's where that started. And then I had a friend who showed me how to write code on the TI-83 calculator. So I started writing text-based adventure games. Like I took those choose your own adventure books that I had written, and I transferred them to the calculator and wrote like text-based adventure games. And that was cool because I had like, random number generator built in finally, and so I could make it kind of fun. And that's where that went. So yeah, around 11, 12, 13, I was like, I want to make video games for a living. This is awesome. But
and so you were already programming around 11, 12 years old. That's very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I was TI Basic, I believe is what the language is called. And yeah, and it was honestly a really good exercise for establishing that kind of logic driven problem solving, so it turned out to be pretty valuable, honestly.
That's cool. So did you have a favorite choose your own adventure book that you remember?
I remembered, so I read a ton of Goosebumps books, and there were like a few of them. They had like a series of choose your own adventure books, but there was one, I can't remember the name of it, but it was set in like a fantasy world, and it was the first one I had read where you had to kind of keep track of your inventory while you were playing and or reading, I guess. And at that point, that's when like a light bulb went off. Like I could do this, and I could expand on it and make it like a little adventure. And I didn't even realize it at the time because I'd never played Dungeons and Dragons, but I was essentially making like Dungeons and Dragons light, in my head.
Yeah.
So that's how that ended up, and that's kind of where I started, because it's sort of like the same logic-driven sequences. Like, hey, if you want to do this, then go to this page. If you want to do that and you have this item, then go to this page. So it's it was really fun. It was a good exercise, and it probably did more for me than I realized.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. That you're right though. That kind of so much of what we do in development is essentially if statements, right? Like, or
yeah,
make a condition and then it goes to this next place. And yeah, that's a really great way to kind of get that foundational thought process on that. That's cool.
Yeah, totally is. And it teaches you a little bit about design too, because, like triggers and having stuff happen in sequence,
Yeah.
Very important.
Yeah, definitely. Huh. And there was also times in those books where it would kind of send you back to start over too, right? Like, or like you kind of back step a bit, or maybe it was just me being like, do I like this outcome? No, I'll go back to that page and do it again.
Oh yeah, dude, I always did that. I would have like my whole hand in the book, bookmarking different pages just in case I wanted to go back to, that's kind of like reloading a checkpoint, right?
Mm-hmm. Like, just putting saves in. That's right.
Yeah, like start, load.
That's a true manual save, right? Like you're literally putting your hand in there.
Yeah. That's hilarious. It's a manual save. Yeah, totally.
Oh man. So as you were going into high school, is it still kind of what was on your mind? Did you have any like tech focused classes you could take or anything like that?
Yeah, I did. I kind of always like loosely steered myself towards computer programming because I thought that's everything you needed to know. I thought that if you
Mm,
could program, you could make a game, by yourself, period. Like
right.
I came from, it was kind of the John Carmack school of game design, and or the thought process behind game development. I was like, I want to be able to build this by myself. So I always steered myself towards programming. I took a lot of programming classes, basically every programming class that the school offered, because I was in my sophomore year. Right before my sophomore year, we moved from Maryland to Asheville, North Carolina, and the school I went to didn't have the most. It wasn't super tech focused, so they really didn't have much in terms of computer science
Mm,
focus at that school. So I did the best I could. I learned Pascal, which is like this very old programming language.
yeah.
I don't know if the kids even know what that is
Probably
anymore.
not. No.
Yeah, it would make some old computer scientists chuckle if I told them I learned Pascal. Um, so I was doing Pascal. We made little games in that class, and that was in like 10th grade, 11th grade. I did the same thing. Um, but so I kind of always loosely steered myself towards programming, but I didn't really have a path. Like I had no idea what I needed to take, what I
Mm,
needed to do to get to make games. So I just kind of said, I'm just going to learn everything I can about programming. And I even, after I graduated from high school, I didn't do great. I came out with like a 2.5 GPA. I kind of did the bare minimum.
yeah.
I just kind of skated by. I wasn't really. I'm not. Wasn't super academic. Um, and I went to a state school after that for computer science, and I ended up failing out after a single semester. Like
Oh
I,
wow.
I had like a 1.5 GPA. I just went to my classes and just didn't care. Like I couldn't see how they related to what I wanted to do.
Mm,
You know, as a game developer, so failed out of my state school. And even though, but I mean, going back to the original question, yeah, I wanted to make games the whole time. Like the whole time, I was like trying to steer myself in that direction. But it was kind of like being in an ocean and with like on a surfboard with a canoe and just paddling in a direction and hoping there's land over there. You know.
yeah. So that sounds like you took that first step to go to a state college or whatever it was, and then but failing out. Like, what was your thought process now? Because like you took a stab at it, what you thought was going to get you there.
Yeah.
What's the plan now?
Now, okay, so basically, my priority at that point was not living with my parents for the rest of my life.
Right.
So I ended up, but I had a buddy who was joining the Navy, and so me and him talked, and I ended up doing the same thing. So
Okay.
I joined the Navy. That was back in 2006, and I went in as it was called a CTM, which is a cryptologic technician maintenance branch, and it was basically doing stuff like pulling cable, installing network infrastructure, like duct and conduit and servers and telecommunications, a little bit of physical security, like installing locks and cameras and stuff.
Mhm.
Basically, like I was basically a cable dog, is what they called us. We just pulled cable. Like it
You
was
were
manual
a
labor.
Navy IT guy.
Pretty much. Like no, not even IT. Like even IT, there's a little bit of like an administrative
Uh
part
huh.
to that, like where you kind of do like network stuff or account stuff, help people fix their
Right.
computers or
That's true.
whatever.
Yeah.
This was pure basically manual labor. Like just run this conduit through that brick wall. I'm like, "Oh god, all right." Try not to get shocked plugging in a circuit breaker. That's kind of like what I was doing. And it was a good skill set. I did my 4 years, and then I got out and I got a job as a contractor for the Army doing the exact same thing as a civilian.
Okay.
And that was in 2010. And I worked at Fort Gordon in Augusta, Georgia, for a year doing that. And that was that was fun, but it kind of showed me that like I didn't really want to do that for the rest of my life because I looked around and the people that had been doing that for their whole career, like they were all in their late 40s, early 50s, and they were all like kind of broken people, like kind of hobbling around like physically,
Yeah.
and all of us were pretty kind of had a dark sense of humor. Uh, but they like just kind of limps and like they had kind of a rough social lives because again they had to move around a ton. They couldn't really set roots down anywhere, so it made it tough for them to form those long lasting relationships still. And I remember specifically the moment when I decided I needed to start looking into something else was I was coming home from work one day and I was 23 years old at the time. I had been hopping in and out of false floors all day, and I was pressing down on the gas pedal and driving, and it was making my knee ache. Like just the effort to push down on the gas pedal made my knee hurt.
Yeah.
And I put my hand on it and I could feel my knee clicking as I like moved my
Yikes.
foot up and down on the gas pedal. And I'm like, I really shouldn't be feeling this at 23 years old. You know, a 23-year-old kid should not be having knee problems, you know? So I was like, I need to figure out something else. I can't do this forever. I'm going to end up like just beat down and like not passionate about what I was doing. So not super happy, not content, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I decided to look into game development because I kind of remembered back in the day, like this is what I really enjoy doing. And I of course, throughout my whole Navy career, I was playing video games the whole time, still playing video games. And I was really into games still. So that's what drove me to game development and to Full Sail as well.
All right. So I don't know if you mentioned this or not, but your 4 years were in Hawaii, right? Am I remembering that right?
That is correct.
You had the that sounds terrible, buddy. Like I can't imagine
hey, many Mai Tais lost their lives on the shores of Waikiki.
Oh man, that's yeah. So but seriously though, that kind of work on your knees a lot. My knees are the thing that I'm most concerned about and always have been. So especially after 40, man, knees start to really suck. So
yeah, it's like it's been on my mind still. Like I've been running a lot lately. Well, not lately, but I was running a lot last summer, and I was like, got to make sure I got good shoes on the whole time.
Yeah, definitely. So as you're now thinking about game development again, what brought you to Full Sail? Had you heard about it before, or like was this your first kind of look into it for real?
Yeah, I had when I was a kid, when I was like 12 or 13 years old, like I had mentioned, I was really into making games.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents bought me a book about game design. It's awesome. It's a really awesome book. There's some really cool people in there. Actually, I work with some of the people that are in this book now.
That's awesome.
The hilarious part. And in the book, there is a section on one of the appendices has schools for game design. And this was back when Full Sail was just getting started. And the two top ones were DigiPen and Full Sail.
Yep.
And
I think it was the only two
like,
at the time.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the other ones were like in Japan.
Yeah.
So totally. And I was drawn to the Full Sail drawn to Full Sail because it was so close to North Carolina. Here it is right here. Actually, I circled it way back in the day. I've told this story a ton, but I don't think I've ever shown anybody.
That's
like
funny.
The actual book. Like that is a 13-year-old's like circle, you know.
That's funny. Man, so what does it say? Does it just talk about just like a general overview of the program?
Pretty much, it says another high-tech college with a program dedicated to game design is Full Sail in Winter Park, Florida. Their motto is real-world education, game design, digital media, game design program. Teach students the skills necessary to design, create single and multiplayer computer games for networks. And that's what hooked me. I was like, all right, that's where I want to go.
Nice.
And at the time, they only offered the associate's degree. And, you know, I was coming out of the Navy. I looked back into them and I saw they had gone, you know, grown exponentially.
Yeah.
They were offering bachelor's degrees. And it was like kind of I just had to go there. I ended up going to the like behind the scenes tour on campus, and it was like as soon as I got there, I was like, I have to go to this place because like I don't know if everyone in chat hasn't visited that campus, like you should go if you're even like tangentially interested in tech or media or education or design, entertainment. Sorry, that's the word I was looking for. You should check out that campus because you're gonna go there and be like, this is a place where like magic happens, and this is where I could learn to do all this. So yeah, that's what sealed the deal for me. It was going and to the behind the scenes tour. I still have my behind the scenes tour badge from 2011 hung up over there.
Seriously? Oh man.
Yeah, that's like proof positive that I knew that this place was going to be special. Like I saved that since that day.
Nice. So I did not get to go on a behind the scenes tour actually. I don't know if I mean, I assume they were doing them, but I was not able to experience that. But I agree with you. Like, as soon as you see that campus and see what's going on, if you're interested in entertainment stuff at all, you kind of like, oh, this is a place. Like, you feel it there. It's hard to describe, but yeah.
Yeah,
So
there's like a magic there, and it's like the kind of people that are there are all feel the same way. So
yeah.
like you already have like that spark in common with everybody. Like I really feel like you could talk to just about anyone, and like you both have like the shared passion for your craft,
Mhm.
and that's something you could connect to a lot of people with or over or through.
Yeah, definitely. So what was your what's the first memory you have of being there, like when you started? Or was it much
First
later?
memory.
Most of my memories are later on, but yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I mean I remember my very first day.
Do you?
Uh, yeah, on Full Sail campus, I remember thinking, man, that's a lot of dudes in fedoras. Like
Oh
that was
man.
like one of the first things that stuck out in my head. And honestly, it's just because I came from like a really stuffy. I had just spent 5 years in the military industrial complex. So like seeing a dude with hair below the top of his ear was like a little bit of a culture shock for me. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's what it took for me to do a double take. Like it was, I had just been in that environment for so long. So yeah, I remember that first, my first time on campus and being amongst kind of that's like the first big step I took back into the civilian populace. Honestly, there's a big transition that goes on when you go from military to civilian. I got lucky that I worked as a contractor for a while and that I had it as sort of like a halfway house. So that was like, the culture shock of being on a college campus versus coming from an army base. That was what I remember very distinctly.
So that's interesting. Was it like, what about it is difficult? Like, is it just that everything's so regimented and then now you're kind of on your own, or what's kind of the major things that are a struggle?
I mean, kind of like you're just ready to have someone when you're on an army base or especially a marine base. Like if you go on, especially if you're a sailor on a marine base, like you're just ready to have someone jump down your throat at any given moment over
Mm,
anything. Like you're just kind of always defensive, always on guard. Like imagine not being able to relax. Like I can't remember who it was, but like one comedian was like they call it, they'll come in and be like, all right, soldiers at rest, and he's like, my idea of at rest is not in the military anymore. So it's kind of like that. There's like a high strungness that it doesn't exist obviously once you get out, and you're not used to that. It's a little weird. It's a little culture shocky. Like it can be a bit heavy for people.
mm,
It wasn't too bad for me because it's not like, I kind of always had a pretty laid back attitude. But even I find myself, especially then, not so much anymore, but even I find myself like sometimes I have like a little bit of a short fuse over stuff, like just because it's been so like ingrained that things, I don't know, just like a communication style almost that
mm.
you develop in the military that doesn't really translate to the civilian world. There's like an aggressiveness and like a regimentedness, like you said, that you can't really carry over successfully because that's just not how people communicate. And that was kind of the biggest. I wouldn't say it was a shock, but it was the biggest. Like definitely something to get used to. Just like
Yeah.
something to break in.
Yeah. Interesting. So, so what was your time overall like there? So you're now in this, super intense, and I assume you did the standard immersive program, 20 months or whatever,
Mhm.
for the bachelor's. What was your time like overall? How intense was it for you?
So actually, I did extended for like the first half
Oh,
of my
did you?
program.
Okay.
hmm Because I was really nervous about coming in and not being a good student. I didn't really know how to be a good student. I kind of so I just did what was obvious to me. Like I'm gonna do what seems obvious. I'm gonna show up early every single time. I'm gonna do all my homework every single time. I'm gonna answer every question every single time. I'm gonna study for every test every time. All the extra credit every time.
Right.
So and all those little things just added up. and I ended up doing really, really well in school. I switched to accelerated about a year in,
Okay.
and just knocked the rest of my degree out. Um, and uh, I was valedictorian of my class when I graduated, like just through
Of course you
all
were.
that hard work.
Of
Yeah,
course you were.
it all added up. Like I seriously, I mean, I had to kind of force myself to do it because I went into every single class, first day of class, and I would look around and I think to myself, I'm gonna get the highest grade in this class. Like I'm gonna do whatever it takes to have the highest grade, the high, out of all these people in this class, because I really wanted to stand out because I knew that was going to be. Uh, a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's going to be graduating. We're all going to be looking for jobs at the same time. So you really had to. I didn't want to bank on the veteran status, and in fact, like I just kind of like tried to push that out of my head as much as possible,
Mm.
because you really need to learn your craft. Like that's the most important thing, is to learn your craft and be a good, like if you want to be a programmer, be a good programmer, have a solid foundation. And so the reason I went to school, was because I wanted that structure of a, I wanted sort of like a runway that I could just launch myself down and through. So that's what I did, was I put faith in the curriculum and I studied my butt off. I learned everything I could, and it paid off because Full Sail is legit, like the legit good school with great instructors, and they teach you the skills that you need. And if you go in there and you excel, then you can do the same thing.
Yeah. So that, I mean, obviously, I want to hear a little bit about. Did you have any difficulties working with other students? Because like if you're in there trying to, you go in with the mindset of I'm going to be the best, right?
Hmm.
That can rub people the wrong way potentially, right?
Totally.
So
Yeah.
so I'm
Plus,
curious. Was there anything like that happened?
no, because it's not like I didn't broadcast it. I wasn't like I wasn't like adversarial with
Hmm.
anyone. It was nothing like I wasn't gonna sabotage anyone for it. I'm a good person. I just like to, like, if you just go out there and just be kind, and like, you can be you can be competitive but still be kind, and
Yeah.
that was kind of what I did. I was competitive but it's still kind. And one of the things you learn in the military too is like you just don't leave you learn like teamwork in
Hmm.
the military, like and that they were all my teammates, but in the back of my mind I kind of thought to myself, they're all my competition too.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do everything I can to put myself ahead, but I'm never going to do anything to put anyone else behind.
Nice.
So that was the mindset that I went into it with. I went into it, I wanted to make friends. I wanted to network. I wanted to, because that was another way that I could kind of put myself ahead, is by having a network and a friend group. And like, if I kick ass and my buddy, he kicks more ass than me, he's better than me, but he sees that I kick ass too, he's going to help me out someday.
Yeah.
Or
Yep.
if I help somebody else out, who's to say that I might be out of my luck someday and then they could help me out. So I went into it, that was an aspect that I tried to be mindful of, the fact that like we all need to work together. And I was starting on the same, like, you know, totem pole as they were. I didn't think of myself as above them in any way.
Yeah.
I see that sometimes with veterans coming out, and it works against you, when you come out and you put yourself above other people, or you think, oh, I'm better than them because I served, or this and that. That's like, it's self-destructive. It's not constructive.
Yeah.
And all it does is make things harder for you and harder for the people around you. So um, I was aware of that, and it was something that I actively worked to avoid.
Nice. So you touched a little bit on the thing that I think most of us would agree is one of the most important parts of the entertainment industry as a whole, and that's networking, right?
Mhm.
So what did you do to start, like, and you talked about how, like, you're looking to lift your friend up, and those kind of things are great. What did you do? Like, what was your overall kind of networking plan or experience as you were like going through school, but then also thinking about where you want to get to when you're heading out?
So there's like, I kind of, Full Sail puts on those networking events, which are super, super valuable because they bring in industry professionals to come in and talk to people. And I was kind of at this, I went to all of those, and my goal being, to just say hello, introduce myself, maybe like shake a hand, and then if they ask questions, or a lot of people go to those, and like we're all trying to figure our way out, so there are people who like they'll dominate the conversation a little bit and not realize it, or they'll kind of like try to put themselves out there. It becomes really obvious when you're trying too hard, so my whole goal has always been to kind of like let my work speak for me. So I kicked ass in all my classes. I did really well. I studied a lot, and I just figured that would kind of show naturally. I didn't go out of my way to push that in anybody's face, but it was like kind of that was my goal when I went out there and networked with those professionals. Like just like introduce myself, say hi, and I think they would pick up on like, hey, this guy knows a little bit about what he's talking about just through normal conversation and like asking about relevant things that I was interested in that they had an expertise in, perhaps, and then carrying on a meaningful, natural conversation without seeming like I'm trying too hard or just talking to them because I want to get a job or for whatever other reason,
Yeah.
And that's what I was shooting for. I didn't know if it would work or not. I didn't know if sometimes the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and it's the dude who does dominate the conversation that leaves the impression. you know that's
Sometimes
just
it's not a great
goes.
impression though, so that's not
Yeah,
always the right
exactly.
way to go.
That's true. Yeah, that's what I was banking on.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not going to be the loudest guy in the room. I'm rarely the loudest guy in the room, but I always. It's like I can't remember the saying, but they're like, or who said it either, because I'm terrible and no memory whatsoever. But it's like if you're just quiet, if you don't speak, then people are going to think you're arrogant, or they're going to think you're like, they're never going to think you're dumb,
Yeah.
basically, if you just kind of keep to yourself and absorb information, be a listener. So I've always kind of balanced the amount of listening I do versus the amount of talking I do, which probably this isn't the best format for that, because here I am rambling.
You're not rambling at all. You're doing great, man. And
Thank you.
it's interesting. So speaking of bad memories, I do think though that one of those events you're talking about is where we originally met. Is it?
Yeah.
Isn't it? I think so. And
yeah, for sure. You came to visit. I mean, several times. Because when I was going through, there weren't a ton of Hall of Famers that were in the game industry.
it was just
I think
me.
it was like you and Chance.
Oh yeah, and then Chance. Yep.
Yeah, you and Chance, and that was pretty much it. Who else? I thought there was one
Well,
more.
we added
I'm
some
trying to
later,
remember.
right? But for a while,
Yeah.
it was only me for like a while. Well, especially game design. I was only game design, like game devs grad until Elbert much later. And so
Albert, yeah. I came back for his Hall of Fame. Like that's how much afterwards, that was. I think it was like 2 or 3 years after I graduated. It was when Albert got inducted.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like you were a super visible grad out in the industry, and so if you came back, like I was there, like I went to one of, like, I can't pinpoint exactly which talk was the first, but I mean if it was within the 2012 to 2014 timeframe, like I was in the audience.
Nice.
You can just be pretty like I can pretty reliably say I was in the audience. So yeah, and yeah, it's just sort of the same way. Like we said, hey, and then we actually ran into each other at Oblivion.
At Oblivion, that's the one I remember most. Yeah,
totally. And I did the same thing. I just kind of like chilled, treated it like a normal interaction. I was, honestly, of course, I was like, holy shit, this fucking James. Oh, sorry, can I say that? Can
yeah,
I
absolutely,
drop
man.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah, no worries.
Okay. Obviously, in the back of my mind, I was like, "Holy shit, this is Jameson, Hall of Famer." Be cool. But it was like, it was such a relaxed environment, and if I'm being honest, like the bar environment is like my home base. Like that's my rock. Like I feel very comfortable there. So
yep, that's the
worked
best
out really
place
well.
to have a conversation, right?
Yeah,
everybody talks a little easier when you got a beer in your hand, like you're doing right now. I'm just saying.
Yeah, totally. Like it's a way to loosen things up, especially amongst like a crowd of people who are kind of
anxious.
Anxious, yeah.
We got a question from Grant Schonkweiler. What did you do to stand out as a student?
Man, that's tough, because like, in my mind, it's more like what didn't I do to stand out? Because I did every single freaking thing I could. I was so worried about, coming out of I talked crap about it, but it was a good career. I made good money like working as a contractor. So coming out of that, I was really nervous about not being able to find a job. So I did everything I could. And what Grant's referring to, I'm guessing, is I just kind of messaged him on LinkedIn one day out of the blue, because actually he was, Grant, another one of those grads who was super visible in the industry, so I messaged him and I was just like, hey man, I'm graduating soon. He was working at id at the time, and id was a studio I was, obviously super interested in. So I just said, hey, do you have any advice for me? Is there anything I can do? I just tried to establish a rapport basically with him, and he gave me his advice, and then I followed it, and I ended up meeting up with him at one of the things he came back for. I believe it was the 2013 pack, or maybe it was something later. Actually, I think it was later, because I had already like interviewed at id by the time he came back for it, so it was something different. It might have been Hall of Fame. It might have been like Hall of Fame 6 or whatever it was, 7 maybe, but. Anyway, he so that I think that's what he's talking about, is kind of reaching out and making sort of like a real light conversation over LinkedIn, and just trying to establish a rapport with him, and showing that I wasn't an asshole in his words, just like, which was also like one of my goals in networking, because that guy that comes in and dominates the conversation, a lot of times that's the impression he leaves. He's like, all right, the dude's kind of a dick. He likes to just kind of stomps, like, screw everybody else in the room. Like, here I am just going to push myself on everyone. So that's the thing I did probably that he's talking about, is I just showed him I wasn't an asshole. Which
nice.
Fooled him.
Yeah, I was going to say, how did you pull that off? Oh, man. All right. So now you're finishing up school. You said you already applied at id. What was that like for you? At what point did you like start reaching out for, how many places did you apply, and kind of what was that process like for you? When did you start that?
Sure. Yeah, I started that early. I remember it was October of 2013, and I didn't graduate until May of 2014. So
Okay.
that's a solid,
about 7 months. Yeah.
Yeah, 7 months out. I started looking at openings, and I got really super excited because I saw there was one at Bethesda Game Studios for a gameplay programmer, and I was like, "Oh, dude, I check all those boxes." So I started working on my resume really early, and then I went into Rob Coble and Will Fitzgerald's office, I think like in January or something. A month before we were really supposed to. And I was like, hey, I think I've been doing pretty good in school. Could you guys take a look at my resume and tell me what you think? So I iterated over my resume a few times with Rob Coble, Grant, and Will, and they gave me awesome advice and set me up. And I had a great resume together. They'd both they said they had heard about me before I even walked in their door, which was what I was hoping for. By doing well enough in school, like I was trying to get course director awards. I was doing everything I could, and just hoping that people would put my name out there. And it worked. They were like, "Oh yeah, we'd heard of you before you even walked in here." So that was my goal, and that worked out really well. I talked to Rob, and he just straight up asked me, like, "What studio do you want to work at?" And I rattled off a list of like a few, and like I considered all of them like studios I would like to work at someday after I have some experience in the industry. Like, I didn't really think that I could graduate and land a job at a high profile AAA studio. But he knew the HR director at id, just through networking, because he was like the career outreach coordinator or the career development advisor.
Yep.
I can't remember his exact title. And so he sent my resume over to her once I was done with it, and she showed it to Robert Duffy, and he saw kind of exactly what I was trying to put out there, which was that I'm just kind of a young dude looking for a shot, and willing to bust my butt for it. And so he gave me my shot. Basically, they sent me a programming test, and I treated it just like I treated all of my schoolwork. Like, I went above and beyond. Like, every single question, I didn't just give them one answer. I gave them several answers. Like, you could do it this way, or in this case, you could do it this way, or in this case, you could do it this way.
Nice.
I kind of meticulously formatted all of my code to make it look like it came straight out of their engine. you know, because
Okay.
they included code samples and stuff. So I did it all. Like I was color coding words, you know, just to make it look just like, you know, I was like, ah, they're gonna see this and they're gonna be like, oh, he looks like he could write code in our engine already. So that was the goal, and that's what I did. And they ended up saying, hey, this is one of the best tests we've ever gotten. And so
That's
they gave
awesome.
me, yeah, it worked out pretty good. They
They're like
had
that.
I
This
had a
is
phone
great,
interview.
but no.
Yeah, yeah. But Grant says you're a dick.
Yeah.
So
That's funny.
no, but so I had a phone interview after that, and then an on-site interview. And there's actually sort of an interesting branch to this story at the on-site interview portion. I was also applying at the same time to another studio called Vicarious Visions,
Mhm.
which they worked on Sky something back in the day, and they did like some ports for other games. Like they actually did the port for Doom 3,
Mhm.
the Xbox port. And I was applying for them too. They're a good studio, big studio. They did really well. But I wasn't like super into it. I was like, because I was applying to it at the same time. So they sent me a test. Yeah, Skylanders. That's what it was. Yep.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so I wasn't super into it. And they sent me a test, and it was like the id test. They sent it to me, and it was like you have 48 hours to get it done. So it wasn't like super involved. It was testing out the basics of your knowledge and whether you can, whether you could do the job. It was pretty simple. Comparatively, the Vicarious Visions test was a 5-day test. Like they gave you 5 days to do this test.
Okay.
And I tried to do it all in a single night in the hotel room while I was at my on-site interview for id. So, as you can imagine, I did a pretty crappy job on it. Like when I turned it in, they actually messaged me and they were like, hey, you left some of these blank. Was that intentional? And I had to reply and be like, no, I just didn't know the answer. Like a complete dick move. Like whatever impression I left on Grant, I left the opposite impression on the Vicarious Vision dudes.
So wait, so why were you just not as into that one? Like what? Like why did
Pretty
you
much.
not take the same like,
I was
I'm gonna do
so
this over the top?
Yeah, I was just so hyper focused on id. Like I
Okay.
had tunnel vision, on what I was doing for id, and really everything else kind of took a backseat to that. And that's probably one of my greatest character flaws, is that if there's something I'm excited about, I will kind of focus on it to, the detriment of everything around me. So I was really interested. I was obviously very interested and very focused in throwing all of my energy at id, and like this was like whatever, I'll do this and then turn it in. So they emailed me back and they were not interested in continuing with the interview process. So if it didn't work out at id, I might have just shot myself in the foot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's how that process went for me. And when they ask, like I do talks at Full Sail, and they ask about like if you could go back and do something different, what would you do? And that would honestly be one of them. Like I would spread my energy out a little more evenly. Obviously I want to do as best as I can on every opportunity that I try to take advantage of. So that's what I would do. But that's what the process was like for me. And I ended up getting lucky and getting the job I did. So it worked out in the end. But to this day, like if I applied at Vicarious Visions, there are probably people there that'll be like, no, that dude's a dumbass.
I mean, so to play devil's advocate a little bit, like I don't think you were lucky, first of all, because you put the work in and you put the focus, right? And then everything you did leading up to that prepared you for that opportunity. But at the same time, like I'm not sure that I would, if I were you, I would go back and change that, because you putting all the effort into the thing that you wanted is the thing that got you the thing that you wanted, right? Now, maybe a better thing to do would be, hey guys, can we postpone this, right? Like maybe just not proceed with the other interview until you know about the other one. But I mean, it's hard if you're like really after something and you want something, you want to put everything you got into that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess I just can't help but think that the more pragmatic thing to do would have been to, not like slam the door in my own face, which I kind of did. But yeah, actually, that's a smarter idea. Is is to been like, hey, I can't really focus on this right now because I'm traveling. Could I maybe send me a different test in a few days, or could I turn it in then? There were like smarter ways I could have gone about that for sure. Yeah, I like your idea better. Um, yeah,
Hey, but in
because
the
I
end, it
obviously,
worked.
like, I was trying to figure out how to phrase it so that I wouldn't take anything away from the effort I put into the id stuff.
Yeah. No, but if that's what you're passionate about, man, that's where you got to put your energy, and it worked. Right?
Hmm.
You did it. You did the right thing.
Thank you.
So,
It was worked out good.
yeah, well, it seems to have. I mean, you've been there for what, 7 years now? So
Yeah. 7 years as of last month, and
that's
man, the
crazy.
studio has come such a long way since
Yeah.
then. I remember when I first started, we have a massive trophy case. It's 2 floors, and the top floor was kind of all game awards, and I went in there, and there really wasn't a ton in that trophy case that came from before or came from after 2010.
Uh-huh.
Like, everything in that trophy case was, Wolfenstein, Doom,
Yeah.
Doom 2, Doom 3, and then like Rage won like a lot of E3 awards, but it didn't really do super well. And I remember seeing it and being like, I mean, it didn't really rake in a ton of accolades
Yeah.
after it released. Not that it didn't do super well, but I loved Rage 2, by the way. But so I remember being like, I want to fill that trophy case with some new awards, and we did so. We did so pretty well with Doom and Doom Eternal. And in no, like, obviously that was like a team effort, a collaborative effort, but it felt good to know that I was a small part of that. Those
Yeah.
awards getting put in there. Um,
Oh,
so
we're
that was
definitely
really
going to dig
cool.
more into that for sure. So before we jump into your time at id, I've got some questions I want to ask you that I call the dev round. You ready for this?
Okay, yeah, let's do
All right.
it.
What is your favorite game of all time and why?
Mm, probably Skyrim.
Yeah.
Probably Skyrim. Yeah, just because I think it does. I was actually talking about this the other day. Skyrim is one of those games that there's enough structure for you to play and, like, really get into and climb all the way through and feel like you're completing something. But at the same time, it's like loose and open ended enough that you can kind of fill in. There's some blanks that you can fill in with your imagination, like
Mm.
about the world and about your character and about like your origins, and it really is just like the perfect balance of open-endedness and structure, so that like you can it really like just hit in the exact perfect way for me. Like, when I played that game, I actually it was right when I started at Full Sail when Skyrim came out, and I almost quit. I was like, I'm never gonna make a game this good. Like,
That was what? That
I
game was 11 11 11, right? Wasn't that when that
yeah,
came out? Yeah.
yeah. So, like, and that was my first month at Full Sail. I was like, all right, well, the perfect game already exists. So what am I even doing here?
That's
But
interesting. I spent that whole time not being able to play video games. So
mhm.
I'm curious how you were able to do that and still excel and become valedictorian. I kind of hate you a little bit.
Yeah, I still played games. Like,
Yeah.
the it was to the detriment of my relationship at the time. Like, that's what took the back seat. I was not
Okay.
the best boyfriend in the world, not the most attentive boyfriend in the world. We didn't make it, and that's probably why, honestly. Like I said, like, when I'm like really into something, it's kind of to the detriment of everything around me. So I was
Interesting.
really into games, really into and then not really into being the best boyfriend in the world. So that's how that went. Yeah,
That was your
sorry to
me
drag the
time.
conversation
Yeah.
down. Yeah, that's the real world.
All right. Next question. When did you first feel like you had made it as a game developer?
First felt like I made a game developer. Okay. There is okay, I can't really get into super specifics here, but this was about 2 years into my career. We were working on a demo for something that our CTO was going to show to the higher ups over at ZeniMax,
Mm-hmm.
and I was working on it with one other person, and like, we were making a build. He was on an airplane. Like, this was like the night before he was going to show it to like some of the business people at ZeniMax. So It was one other person and me. We made the build the night before, and nothing worked. Like it just crashed
Oh
immediately.
no.
Yeah, and like and
I've
she
been
called
there.
me
I
in.
get that.
So she called me in. She was like, "Hey, Mark, can you come take a look at this?" And I was like, "Sure, I'll do my best." I'd only been in it for like 2 years, and you'd think like 2 years is a long time, and I would know what I'm doing by then. I didn't. I had no idea what I was doing. To this day, like I have a marginal clue about what I'm doing. But at 2 years, I certainly didn't. And I went in there and I was like, all right, I'm just gonna try to figure this out, I guess. And like we through over the course of the whole night, like we stayed there till 4 or 5 in the morning. I went in at like 7 p.m. and we stayed there till 4 or 5 in the morning working on this together. And just it was like the Slumdog Millionaire of development of bugs. Like something would come up and I would be like, oh wait, I remember something similar when I tried to do this earlier, and I fixed it. And then something else would come up and I'd fix that. And like slowly but surely, like I think I probably learned more that night than I had like in like my whole year prior to doing that little project. And so I remember lots of days going home and being like, "Oh God, at some point they're gonna figure out that I do not belong here." But when I went home the next morning after all that, and we had gotten the build ready, and we added in features that were like nice to have. Like we had gotten to the nice to haves over the need to haves, and that
Nice.
I remember like going home the next day and being like, "Okay, I can hang. Like I can forgive myself a little bit tonight. Like tonight I kicked it out of the park.
Nice. That's
So that
awesome.
was when I first that's my it's like a very like I can pinpoint the exact moment. Yeah.
That's great,
Yeah, I
man.
felt like I belonged.
It's really interesting to me that it took you 2 years, like, because there's a couple of different things at play here, right? There's the I feel like I deserve to be here. I'm effective. I belong. That, and then the made it, which is like, okay, I'm good, right? And you kind of
Hmm.
had both of those at the same time.
Yep.
That's kind of crazy. Like that's 2 years of that had to have been difficult, right? Like that's a lot of mental anguish to go through there,
Yeah.
always feeling like you're not doing well enough.
Totally is. Like imposter syndrome's a thing, and I'd
Oh
never
yeah.
heard of it until I got into the game industry. And I was like, and then like it was almost like a light bulb moment seeing that there was a word for it.
Yeah.
And that it's so prevalent. Like everyone, like seriously, 99% of the people feel the exact same way. And it's honestly just because, especially at id, like my God, you should see some of the geniuses that I work
Oh, I
with, like
bet.
legitimate geniuses. Like these people could be rocket scientists or surgeons or like astronauts, like just some ridiculous high level geniuses, and they make games. And I'm like, they're my coworkers and my peers, and I've never really been that academic. I've always been sort of more focused on bringing out the fun.
Yeah.
So I mean it was like that's was something to get used to, and like yeah, that imposter syndrome's a real thing. Like there are people who have way more credentials than me that still feel like they don't belong, that they're like any day now people are going to figure out they're a fraud.
Dude, I've dealt with that every day of my life. So I 100% understand what you're talking about. It sucks,
It
but
does.
you can harness it. And as I look back, I dealt with the same thing you're talking about, and I always have, and I always will. But at the same time, I realized that it pushed me to try harder, to do better, to make sure that what I'm doing is above and beyond what's expected. And even if I don't feel like I'm doing well enough, the results are there. You know what I mean? And that's
Yeah,
you can use it that way.
totally. That brings me to this quote that I really love, that like it's super deep and it's kind of like it's pretty meta. But the quote is that it's by Cus D'Amato, who's Mike Tyson's trainer, and he says that fear is like fire. Like you can use fear to cook your food. You can use just like you can use fire to cook your food, or it can burn your house down. So it's a little bit like how you control it. You can use that fear to work for you, as like a positive force. I
Yeah.
don't know. Pretty crazy. That's what I always think of. That's what I come back to.
Yeah, definitely. And all right. So next question. I got two more questions.
Yeah, let's do it.
What advice would you give to someone who's looking for their first job in the industry?
That's tough. It depends on the discipline. It's just like be persistent, of course. Be persistent. Like just never stop. Never give up. Always be working on something. Oh, another thing. This is big, and this has come up a little bit because I see it pretty prevalently. But like, don't be a dick on Twitter.
Or anywhere.
Or anywhere. Like, and be able to talk about games you don't like in a constructive way.
Yes. Oh
like,
my gosh.
if you don't like a game, like, don't bring like the quippy, dismissive Twitter responses into your interview. Like,
Yeah.
my God, like that's just be constructive, break it down, be pleasant. I can talk about games I don't like, and I can talk about them in ways that don't just completely shit all over them. But some people can't. Some people do that, and it's a big red flag for me. I wouldn't say it's ever like been like the breaking point. Like, no one's ever like, someone's awesome, but they talked crap about a game. That's never gonna be like, well, throw them in the trash can. But it's just one thing that can work against you. And you want to have everything working for you that you can.
Dude.
Yeah.
I was one time, and one thing that we all know that are in this industry is how small it is. Like, and
Very.
one time I was at a industry gathering, and a dude was sitting and talking shit about a product that someone else at the table had worked on and was highly invested in, and they were hoping to work there.
Yeah.
There's so much wrong with this. There's so much wrong.
Oh, dude.
But I was just
bad.
like, oh, like.
I mean, yeah. Even the worst games that release, like games come out and they get kind of a lukewarm reception or something, I can still play them and I can still find like an ounce of enjoyment in them, and I'll always look for that over looking for a reason to hate it.
Yeah.
I'll look for a reason to like it more so than I look for a reason to hate it. And one thing being in the industry has shown me is that no matter how terrible a game is or how much it might not be for me, there are developers who came in every day, busted their butt, and just wanted to make some people happy. Just wanted to bring a little bit of joy. Like, oh, this dude, he put this little touch on this animation because it makes it pop, and it's a little bit of his own creative input, and he's proud of it, So I look for that sort of stuff in games that I play, and I find that I enjoy them a lot more that way. And I find that I when I'm looking for a reason to like a game, most of the times I find it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And even if you do have criticisms, like Vase mentioned in the chat,
for sure.
talk about solutions, man. like, give some ideas for how it could be better or what you would have done to improve it. Just ragging on something is.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I mean, I can talk about games I don't like, but I'll never do it in a way that like shits on the people that enjoy it, or shits on the people that made it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I save that for movies.
Yeah, that's true.
I save that vitriol for movies I don't like.
That's right.
Just kidding. Just kidding. That's another industry that's a lot like the game dev industry,
Very much like. And it's very, very similar and also very different. Like, it's funny. Like, I'll have conversations with guys that work in film, and sometimes we're like, oh yeah, but like the whole, like the way that industry works and how you get jobs and stuff is just so different but there's things we could learn from that industry too, I think. And
totally.
I don't know.
I think like if I weren't making games, I think I'd be in film. Like, if I were to pursue some other creative passion, I really enjoy movies and the creative process behind them.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So here's the last question I have for right now.
Okay.
If you were born in 1870, what job or career do you think you would have?
1870. I'd probably be a ditch digger or something. I'm just not clever. I would dig ditches, or maybe I'd be a sailor.
I was say, you don't think you'd still be a military man?
Yeah, I'd probably still be an old salty drunken sailor. Whatever Willem Dafoe was in the Lighthouse. Like, that's what I would be.
For some reason, I picture you as a guy on the corner selling newspapers. I don't know why. I'm
a Renaissance man. What can I say?
All right. So let's back up a little bit to when you first got to id. And obviously, if I touch on anything you can't talk about, always just let me know. But I'm curious, sure. Like, what was kind of your onboarding process like? Like, did you have like a buddy that kind of walked you through things, or like kind of I'm always curious how a company indoctrinates people, if there's any of that
Mhm.
that you can talk about.
So I came in at a really weird time. There was, there wasn't much of a process in place, especially for someone coming straight out of school. Um, I mean, or there could have been, and I just missed it, and
Mm,
it was all just part of the magic of being there,
yeah.
honestly. But I went in, and they had a process for getting people set up. Of course, like they showed me all the important file locations, all the important like folders, and what I needed to get, code and assets and start working. And they gave me basically my first day was just reading through their code conventions.
Hmm.
Um, and then they let me dip into the engine a little bit here and there just to look. I didn't really get my first task until about 2 weeks in. Um, but there was no structured process. I didn't really have a mentor or a buddy so much. I just like I had my lead. His name was Billy, and I could go to him about anything. And that's one of the great things about our studio culture, is that it's open door policy basically, and on an individual basis, because there are definitely guys that want to come in and just get work done, so they don't want to be bothered. But for the most part, like I could go up to anybody and ask them anything. There we had just everyone there was so great when I started. Um, yeah, like it was not a ton of structure, but at the same time maybe it was there and I didn't even realize it because it was a whirlpool of information, and like I was just trying to swim to shore, get my
Yeah.
bearings, you know.
Well, that's a
But
lot
I mean,
for a new employee, much less their first job in the industry. Like
yeah, yeah.
that's a lot going on for sure.
I was actually thinking about the first bug that I fixed, or the
Yeah.
first like assignment I had the other day. It was if you remember the auto map from Doom 2016, there's like the geometry that makes up the level, and then there are these edge highlighting, these vertices that kind of highlight the edges,
Hmm.
and they had broken at some point before I had gotten there, and my first job was to fix them and bring them back. And it was some data structure that was missing, some flag that was getting passed in to the to our shaders, and I figured out what it was. I mean, it took me forever, and I figured out what it was, and I remember like screaming at my desk when it worked. Finally, when I figured out, like the dude sitting across from me, his name was William Cook. It scared him, like it startled him, when I shouted. Uh, I was so happy when I got it to work.
Do you remember what it was? Like what kind of thing you
Oh,
fixed?
yeah, yeah. Like it was like some flag on some data structure that got passed into the shaders. Like it was
Oh,
something
okay.
I can't remember specifically what it was called, but
Oh, that's fine. I was
basically
just
just
curious, like what kind of
yeah,
thing. That's interesting.
yeah. It was something like that. Just a boolean that needed to get flipped.
Gotcha. So, man, so you went into someone else's code to fix your first bug.
Mm-hmm.
That
Yeah,
that sucks. Like that.
dude, that's rough. Especially like that was probably my weakest area of expertise was wading into a giant engine,
Yeah.
like id tech. um even like the school assignments we got, I always struggled the most when there was a ton of code already written, and having to parse through all that. I've gotten better at it,
Mm-hmm.
obviously. Like I'd be pretty bad at my job if I couldn't look at someone else's code and figure out what it's doing by now.
Right.
But that was like a big challenge for me. So that's why, another reason why I was so excited, because like I was coming in and I'm like, man, I hope I can understand a single word I read.
Yeah.
you know
So you came in to work right on Doom 2016, is that right?
yeah.
How
Yeah,
far
I
into the
started.
project was it?
It was about, I think they had rebooted it, like, and this is like anecdotal, so I shouldn't be quoted on this, and nobody should treat this as truth or
Yeah.
fact. But I believe they had rebooted it about a year before I started
Okay.
in 2013. Don't listen to me. Listen to what they say in the No Clip documentary.
There you go.
But I think if I recall from the No Clip documentary, that's what they said. They
Nice.
rebooted it in about late 2012, 2013. Um, or ask Grant. Grant was there for all of that part, so he would know.
All right.
Um, and so yeah, I started and I got to work straight on Doom 2016. I started in May of 2014, and we had QuakeCon at the end of June, or it might have been at the beginning of June, and so I went straight to work because I knew how to write shaders, so they put me on some shader tasks that needed to get done. So I went right to work working on shaders and stuff for blood pools. They needed
Okay.
to look good. There were two different environments we were showing in our gameplay reveal at QuakeCon 2014. There was like this interior environment and then the exterior environment on the surface of Mars, and the blood pools needed to look good in both of those environments. So I spent a lot of time like bouncing back and forth with the shader code, being like, "All right, I got it. It looks good inside. Now let me check the surface. Oh no, now it looks like a pool of muddy water. You know? Okay, so let's tweak that a little bit more." That was before Tiago started. Tiago was our new lead rendering guy, Tiago Souza. He's legendary graphics programmer, legendary R&D. He did R&D at Crytek before he came to id.
Oh, okay.
So that was before Tiago started, and he eventually came in and overhauled like a big portion of that code. And so obviously he made everything look amazing, and I made everything look passable.
Nice.
or like one or two things. I made one or two things look passable
Good
before
enough
that.
not to get fired.
Yeah. But that was kind of the first thing I started working on was like visuals for QuakeCon. We had our world, or it wasn't the world gameplay reveal. We only revealed the gameplay to the people that came to QuakeCon 2014.
Oh, wow.
And that was like insane. That's like to this day like one of the highlights of my career.
Yeah, man, conventions are great. Like, I love conventions in general. I love video game conventions above all. I have not ever worked at a place that had their own convention, right? And so that has to be amazing. Like, I can't imagine what's like, you know what? I work on Doom. Like, this is our thing. Like,
it's like the closest I'll ever be to being feeling like a rock star. Like I can only imagine like this is what this is what Van Halen must feel like after his shows, hanging out.
Yeah.
It's I'll never know, but that's the closest I'll come to. And dude, you should come to the next one, like the
I'm
next
there.
QuakeCon we have in person. Like Will came 2 years ago, and we had a blast, dude. He loved it. So
I'm there. You send me the information. I'm there. What was so special about that QuakeCon moment for you? Was it just like people seeing what you worked on, or like kind of what really stuck out to you overall about it?
Like so just I absorbed a lot of the excitement from the studio.
Yeah.
Like those guys, some of them there had been working on stuff for 7 years, or longer that they hadn't been able to show yet. So, the going into QuakeCon and then finally getting their work out there. So getting to be a part of that. And then of course seeing a little bit of my work up on the screen at the same time, and just the fact that like I came into id at a point in its time where it was like there was a little bit of questions. There were a little bit of questions. Excuse me. There were a lot of questions about like what the studio was up to. Like no one really knew. Like there was a little bit of pessimism. There was a little bit of cynicism about those Doom's gonna suck. So. And so that there was like nervousness going out there and showing it for the first time to an audience, and like I absorbed a little bit of that, and when we showed it, like god dude, the energy in the room was like something like I'd never felt before. Like I've been to rock shows that had less energy, like people were losing their minds, like to this day, like there's not a ton of footage out there of it. You really had to be there, like you had to be there. And it was just it was like mind-blowing, the reception to that. Like we were just, you can watch, there's a really really good YouTube video catching people's reactions coming out of that original gameplay reveal.
Okay.
And like I watch it sometimes to this day. It's so fun to watch. It's so cool to see like people just, they got it. They understood what we were making, and they were so stoked for it. And then that just energized me. I don't want to speak for the rest of the studio, but I'm pretty sure it energized all of them too.
Probably pretty safe to say, but
yeah, I mean, it was just super super validating and just super cool, and everyone was so hyped for the rest of the event. Like everyone was just so stoked. We all had shirts on that said like Doom Team. Like it was super cool.
Nice.
But yeah, so that was kind of the history leading up to it. Even when I was starting, I was like, man, a little nervous because no one knew what id was up to. And I just kind of, it was a little bit of a leap of faith going there, even though they're a legendary studio and they had insane talent. I feel like there was a tiny bit of a leap of faith going there. And being like, I hope what they're working on is good. And like, fortunately, I was right, insanely right, that what they
Yeah.
were working on was awesome. And yeah, that's so that was all those, different, you know, as- uh, happenstances kind of all came together. I can't. The word escapes me
Oh
when I'm
no,
trying to
man.
figure out.
That's
Yeah.
yeah, no, that I get that. That's totally cool.
Hmm.
So,
Circumstances. That's what
oh,
I was
there you
trying
go.
to say. Yeah.
So how long was that before the game shipped? You said that was in 14?
Yeah, that was in 14.
Okay.
About 2 years
Okay,
because
so
we
it's a couple
shipped
years.
in May of 2016.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So it was our vertical slice is kind
okay.
of the big. It was a big portion of what our vertical slice was, is what we showed.
Yeah, how much gameplay overall was it time-wise that you showed?
About 20 minutes.
Okay. That's a
15,
pretty
20
good.
minutes.
Yeah, 15 to 20 is pretty standard for that.
Hmm.
Okay.
2 levels. 2 levels.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so between there and the launch of the game, what kind of stuff did you focus on? Like, in the game itself?
So my big thing was probably the biggest contribution I could point at and say I did a lot of that work is the automap. Like
Okay.
that automap screen, because it was such a marriage of tech, like graphics work plus gameplay. So I came out of Full Sail having done a lot of graphics work. Like I was really familiar with shaders, like I mentioned earlier. So I wrote all the shaders and basically all the code that the engine talks to the rendering side and the graphics card about how to draw that automap on screen. And I did a ton of iteration on that automap. Like we had a bunch of different versions of it because it's still to this day I think pretty unique in terms of game maps, because we have so much verticality in our levels
Mm.
that we needed to do sort of a 3D fog of war effect, which when I first started I couldn't really find any other games that had done that super effectively. So that was a big challenge for me to figure out, and probably the biggest, probably like my biggest accomplishment was how I created this 3D fog of war. I got, I compacted the information down super tiny, like using bitwise operators, and then I pooped it all out to the graphics card and got it to render correctly. And so that was like a feather in my hat from that game. And then of course I worked just across the board on a ton of different stuff. I did the Steam controller integration. I did the PS Vita integration.
Nice.
I did what else did I do for 2016? I fixed bugs across basically every gameplay system we had. I did, because it's, our guys, we have such a small team. Everyone wears a ton of hats, and everyone needs to be pretty comfortable in all areas of the code. So I did one thing I did was the echoes, like if you remember the echoes from the game, which were like sort of the like the holographic cutscene things that would play out in the world. Like I added a flag that you could check to turn any model into an echo model, like just for the ease of use for the designers. So that's something I did.
Nice.
And then like I fixed a crash on the Spider Mastermind. I remember that pretty specifically because it was the first time I got to play that boss fight, and it was super fun.
Did you hide anything? Were there any Easter eggs that you put in there?
I did. Yeah, I did. So there's if you go into Olivia's office in Doom 2016, there's a game on her computer called Demon Crush, and it's like it's kind of a like a candy. No, not. It's called Demon Destruction. We couldn't call it Demon Crush, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we named it Demon Destruction, and it's just sort of like a sliding tile game where you connect 3 demons and they all explode.
Yeah.
So I added that, and then I hid like my name is in the top. Like I put myself on the bottom. I just gave myself the bottom score. I don't care. So Tenacious Diaz is in there. Like
Nice.
my score is the day I graduated from Full Sail. And yeah, the player's name is in there, and I hid a couple other people's names in there just for fun. And that's like, yeah, that's like a little thing, little Easter egg I put in there.
Nice. That's awesome. All right. So what so as the game is now finishing up and you're launching it, what was that feeling like? Did you guys do any kind of a launch thing that you went to, or anything like that?
Yeah, we had a launch party at Reunion Tower in Dallas, which is a big part of this. It's like the big ball on the end of a stick in the Dallas skyline. And that launch party was super awesome. Like we just like the studio culture is so great. Like we're all like I just like everyone so much. It was really really fun time hanging out. And Marty is a great boss to work for. I've met a lot, like having gone to E3 and a bunch of other places. I've had the pleasure of meeting like a lot of different directors from other studios and stuff. And I think if you like lined them all up and were like, which one do you want to work for? I'd pick Marty every time, because Marty is just such a great boss and such a great guy to have managing the project.
Nice.
And so Marty was awesome. Like everyone had like just it was a really fun evening. And like, at that point the game wasn't quite out yet. I think we were a few days out from launch. So we weren't really, there's always that nagging doubt in the back of your mind, like, oh, what if this game completely flops? Or what if everyone just hates it, But we all felt pretty confident that we had made something special. And so that was like a great night to unwind. Like I have like before and after pictures for how much fun I had that night.
Nice. Those will get you in trouble.
Yeah. I mean, no, I was just like disheveled and haggard looking. Like I took a few years off the end of my life there.
Speaking of, I've got some great pictures of you from the last Hall of Fame that I need to put in the Discord later.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah. Those are great. Oh man, that was fun.
All right, so Executives asks, how do you get an Easter egg into the game? Is it something you have to get permission for, or do you sneak it in?
No, you got to get permission for it. Like
you should.
You could sneak it in, but that's like a really dick move.
It is. It is.
Yeah. It's something you talk about beforehand. That demon destruction game that I made, I kind of did it in my spare time, and then I showed it to them afterwards, and I was like, "Hey, I made this game. Do you want to put it in somewhere?" And they were like, they liked it. They thought it was exciting. They thought it was cool. They thought it was a neat detail.
Yeah.
And it has kind of a history of adding neat little things like that. Like you can find the dope fish in most of our games. You can find like Doom 3 had Super Turbo Turkey Puncher. Like it's just we're kind of a studio that's known for having fun and putting fun first. I like to think. So yeah, that's how Easter eggs get in games. So I'm rambling again.
No, you're good. Like a lot. There have been a lot that went in without anyone knowing about them, and I know of a lot of people that got serious, repercussions for that. Sometimes fired for putting in there, especially if something goes in that causes a problem. Like it's something that there's some kind of licensing problem with it, or something that's offensive. Those kind of things. It's always best to make it a part of what you're doing, for sure.
Mm-hmm. It's selfish. It's selfish to put stuff in the game without running it by other people, because without running it by the directors, because it's a collaborative effort. It's a team effort. And when you put something in the game that is hidden from the rest of the team, it's really selfish to do that, because you're basically like stealing the consent of the other people that are working on the game. You know?
Absolutely. That's a good point.
It's a professionalism issue as well.
Yeah. So as the game's finishing up, what did you move on to next, and what was kind of your next role?
So we were finishing up Doom 2016, and I actually went from Doom to working on Doom VR. That was that was like a small team that had gotten started, and I got to be a small part of that, and that was super fun. We shipped Doom VFR in December of 2017. I believe it was, 2017.
I think it was E3 2016 where I saw it, where you were showing it, and I came and saw it, right? Yeah.
That was the first one. That was like the first demo we had. Yeah, it was a little rough around the edges.
That was it was good times though. Like it was really, and that was when the Vive had just come out, and like everybody was really kind of just getting into like consumer based VR at that point, and seeing anything in it was super cool.
Oh,
But like
dude, yeah.
it was just a really cool moment to see what you guys are working on.
So I had like I got to program a lot of the gameplay for that, and so getting to travel around and do demos for people, most of the time it was their first experience with VR. And so that was like super gratifying. Like they just to see them have a blast with what I had made, like up close and personal, individually. Playing in a brand new medium that most of them were not familiar with. It was just the time of my life for sure. And I got to see Agents of Mayhem
Oh,
too
that's right. Yeah. That's when we were there
in
showing that purple
2016.
jackets and everything.
Yeah, yeah, you were all decked out in the purple.
Yeah,
There's
man, that was good times.
yeah, there's still to this day there's a tinge of purple in your glasses. It looks like.
Yeah. Well, these are colorblind glasses. So
Oh,
that's
that's
what
cool.
that's why these have that tint to them.
Nice.
Trying to help with my deficiency, one of them.
Ah, that's awesome. I think that the more we can help out with that, the better. Like I know Doom Eternal at least had a few like colorblind modes
Yeah.
that you could enable.
Yeah, they were needed for me, that's for sure.
Mm.
So, all right, yeah. So, how now when you were working on VFR, that was like you and a team, so like in Germany or something, right? Was that, or am I thinking wrong?
Oh yeah, no. Carrie was working on that too. Carrie
Yeah, yeah,
actually, I think he got the ball rolling for VR. He knows the story better than I do. But that was originally something that I think he started messing around with, like just kind of on his own, and then he showed the CTO. I don't want to misspeak. I like if I'm vague, it's because I don't want to get something wrong.
it's all
But
good, man.
yeah, that's how that ball got rolling. And yeah, there were a few guys in Germany. A few of the engine programmers were adding the VR support in so that we could focus on gameplay, and in Carrie's case, like kind of UI stuff too.
Yeah. Okay.
Hmm.
And how long did you work on that?
That was another 2 years. So I worked on that until maybe no, not quite 2 years, like a year and a half. We shipped in December of 2017, and then I rolled right into Eternal coming right off of that. So I started on Eternal in like December 2017. Really got into it January 2018.
And how far along was Eternal when you jumped onto that one?
I want to say about a year because I think after we shipped Doom, a lot of people went to work on. We had I think 3 multiplayer DLCs,
Mm.
so a lot of people went to work on those multiplayer DLCs, like because there were new maps and some overhauls of the multiplayer modes, and then we did we went on VFR. Some people did the DLCs, and I guess pre-production. I don't know exactly when pre-production started, but I know it was. I would imagine shortly after Doom 2016. But it was probably about a year in. I think at least like a. It's so tough because like development like begins as like a trickle, so if a river, like, if it starts raining and a puddle starts to form, at what point do you say, okay, now it's a pond?
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
tough to say. It's tough to pinpoint exactly when, but I would say like the rain started shortly after Doom shipped.
Okay. And what kind of things did you focus on? Like when you came on, what was your first kind of major task for Eternal?
I started working on some of the rune abilities. The Chrono Strike rune, which is the one that slows down time while you're in
Mm-hmm.
the air. Like that's something I did coming straight in. Like that was like the first thing that got handed to me was the rune system. So I worked on the Chrono Strike rune. I worked on the saving throw rune. And then specifically, I'm trying to think of others. Like a lot of them, some of those runes were stuff we carried over from 2016, so I fixed some of those. um, I got to work on the gore nest interactables, so the ones that eventually became the what were they called, the sentinel encounters.
Mm-hmm.
um, those I got to work on the gore nest, like getting that interactable set back up to work in the new iteration of idtech that we had. And then, of course, I actually did a lot of multiplayer work for Doom Eternal. I worked on a lot of the playable demons. And I guess this was probably 6 months to a year after I started working on Eternal, I got I kind of built the Cacodemon up from scratch. Or not Cacodemon, I'm sorry, the Pain Elemental
Oh,
from
nice.
scratch and all of his abilities. So that was those were like some of the big things I worked on right out the gate on Eternal.
So I want to go back to a question that was asked earlier that I didn't get to yet. This is a good time to ask that. What's your relationship with working with designers and artists? So that when you say like, and this made me think of this again. So you when you say you did these things, were you kind of on your own? Did you pair with a designer and artist? Like how did that work?
Oh no, nothing I did was ever on my own. Like there was always either oversight or direction or just plain old help, like on everything. So everything I say I did, like just assume that there were other people, along the way, like working with me in some way, shape, or form. I'm probably like I'm honestly like doing them a disservice by not bringing them up at every opportunity. But if I did, we wouldn't ever get anything done. I'd be talking because I could talk for days about how awesome my coworkers are and how big like of an impact they have and how little like how minuscule like the actual little bit of work like I put out in the end is.
Now
So
don't undersell yourself, but
true. But so yeah, relationships. I work very closely with designers, especially when we were working on that Pain Elemental that I brought up. For example, they already had the whole thing specced out, like how they wanted the initial abilities to work and stuff, like what kind of knobs they wanted to be able to tune, like or turn on and off. So I had a lot to work with coming into that, and that's I kind of built it to spec. Like that's how we work as gameplay programmers. Is we essentially get a spec, or at least a hard direction to go in when working on this stuff, and then they do like a lot of the fine tuning through decal values that we expose. Um,
yeah.
so yeah, that's how that went. There's a ton of iteration, and we spend a lot of time play testing it after it's in, when it's written to spec, and then they come up with iteration that they want to do, or values that they want changed, or whatever it may be, and that's what we eventually get to our end product, which is obviously at that point it's a gumbo of all of our talent.
Yeah. No, that's cool. So as you're finishing up Eternal, then you had DLC from that as well, right?
Yeah,
What?
the Ancient Gods Part 1 and 2.
Yeah. And what kind of stuff did you focus on there?
For the first DLC, I worked on master level challenges, which shipped as like the classic mode for the
Hmm.
master levels.
Oh yeah.
I enabled kind of the designers to like one of the things I did, for example, was when you pick up weapons, you have all the upgrades and abilities. Like I enabled that through work with our entity system and pickup system. Um, and so that was like my big thing for DLC one, and of course like bug fixes, and I did a little bit of like multiplayer bug fixes and stuff too, because I was really familiar with a lot of the demon players. Um, and then for DLC two, I did a lot of the programming work that came behind the hammer, which was the Sentinel hammer ability that you get kind of in the first mission of DLC two.
Okay. And was there any particular challenge that sticks out to you, or like something that you had to try and figure out and had to work with to try and get a good solution to?
Working from home.
Oh yeah, yeah,
We did like the majority of those DLCs working from home.
man.
Yeah. Uh that was especially for multiplayer. Like, I can't just like turn around and be like, "Hey, hop in a game with me so I can test this out real quick."
Yeah,
So a lot of multiplayer stuff got really challenging in the work from home era. Um so yeah, that was but I mean, I honestly kind of hit my stride coming out of Eternal, and there was nothing that I got that I was like struggling in a way that I'd never struggled before. By DLC 1 and 2, I was kind of in the zone. Yeah, I was able to get
nice.
those tasks and abilities kind of, off the table and out the door. It was nothing I really struggled too immensely with. I went to great pains to make the hammer at least as reliable as possible, because it kind of seems like anything you do with the hands is very delicate,
Mm,
especially in a first person game, and so I wanted to make sure that there was no way And I'm sure I didn't get every case. Like I know that I'm gonna say this, and they're gonna be people who are like, no, because when I used it, it locked my hands in a punch animation, and I couldn't get out, you know. But I went to great pains to minimize those situations. And working with the hands wasn't something I'd done a ton before, so there was a lot of learning to do, and like some risks to take in doing that. Like kind of being like, all right, I'm gonna nuke this capability completely so it doesn't come and bite me in the butt later when it, like, you know, this edge case pops up on the hammer. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what I did. Yeah, that was my biggest point of pride was the hammer. Like it was it worked really well, and I had a ton of fun iterating with the designers on that.
Nice. So we got a question from the chat from Phoenix Rising. What was the biggest pain from the work from home shift for you?
You know, as a programmer, it suited me pretty well. Like I was able to kind of just get in the zone and work on stuff. The biggest pain is just like not being able to just walk into someone's office or walk up to someone and talk about something. Like if I have a question for a designer, like trying to catch them when they're around or not buried in some work or something, you know. And honestly, like it sucked because we went into lockdown and then we released our game a week later. So, you know, no launch party, no get
Oh
together,
man.
no being around the team. To this day, like there are people that I haven't seen since it's been over a year, you know. So like that sucked. That was really shitty. But you know, I can't complain. That's like a really high class problem to have. So there are
Yeah.
people who have
Yeah.
faced immense challenges in the last year. So it's tough for me to be like, we didn't get to hang out when our video game came out, you know.
I mean,
But
it's
like,
still relative, right? Like it's something that you really enjoyed and wanted to be able to do, and then it was totally taken away from you. So I get it.
yeah, yeah,
We didn't get to have
yeah. That
have a
was
Hall of Fame in 2020. So I'm
I
like, you know,
know,
like that's
the
it's a
year that
bummer.
time forgot, man.
Yeah. Well, I guess we technically have one then, but we're not going to have one this year because of it. So
Yeah, that was a good Hall of Fame to leave out on though.
yeah,
Hall of Fame 11. That was a
that's
good
true.
time.
It was a good one.
Yeah.
All right, last
Um.
question from the chat. It's a silly
Yep.
question, they say, from Butcher Lady.
I'm down.
What's your favorite temple from Ocarina of Time?
Probably the Fire Temple. I love the dragon boss.
Yeah.
The Mount Doom temple. Like it's the second one. The first one's the Forest Temple. Yeah, the Fire Temple. Volvavia, I think his name was the dragon.
All right.
I used to draw. I used to draw that dragon a lot.
Nice.
Yeah.
Such a nerd, man. No, I'm just kidding.
I know. No, you're not wrong.
It's funny. The original Zelda is the game that got me into it. So there's some interesting parallels there. It's because I'm
That's
older
awesome.
than you, Mark. I'm older.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good game. The Legend of Zelda is iconic. Like who knows?
I went
It's had
back.
such a massive impact.
I went back and played the original not long ago, and it's hard. Like, you know, like it's a really hard game now. Like I just don't have the patience for all of that. And
It's tough. A lot of retro games, yeah, we've made big advances in user experience.
yeah, definitely. The thing I loved so much about it was it was a full on, to me, it was like the first open world game, right? Where like
Yeah.
you go anywhere, do whatever you want. Like if you're good enough, you can go do this thing way earlier than someone else. Like it was just, I don't know. It was really, it felt like I was in a different place. And that was what really stuck with me for sure.
Yeah, totally, man. I felt the same way playing Ocarina of Time. Like it was the first game that I felt like I was in a whole nother world.
Yeah.
It's kind of dark in here.
Look at you. Ah, nice.
There we go.
Wait, you don't have like LED? You need like LED lighting in there. Set the mood. Yeah, of course you do.
I have it. I just like I just thought the white light would translate better.
No, you're good. All right. So we only got 10 minutes left.
Cool.
So I got a couple of things I want to ask you about. If people want to get in touch with you and have questions, how would you prefer that they do that?
My DMs are open on Twitter.
Okay.
So like anyone can message me on Twitter. I'll put my Twitter in the chat.
Sweet.
That's
Perfect.
I mean it's Tenacious Diaz.
Oh yeah, same thing there.
And
nice.
then I have a lot of people hit me up on LinkedIn, and it really kind of depends on my mood on any given day when I log on and accept the connections, because like a lot of people don't include like a little note or something. Like it's actually, if you're just cold met like connecting with someone on LinkedIn, you should put a little message in there. Like at
Yeah.
least tell me where you saw me or how you know me from or something, because otherwise it's just kind of what mood I'm in that day as to whether I accept or not.
Yeah.
It's just but if you're like, hey, I saw you when you were on Jameson's stream, it'd be really cool to connect. That's all. Like that's all you got to do,
That's an
and
instant
then I'm like, oh
accept.
yeah, sure, you know.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, is there anything that you want to plug or let us know about?
Oh man, support indie devs. Like go look at like there's some really cool indie stuff coming out on Twitter. Well, I mean coming out on Twitter. There's a lot of really cool indie games coming out. Like look at like Death Trash or Sulaco or Proteus or Graven or to support indie devs. It's important, I think, to look at my buddies over at New Blood. They put out some really awesome games with some really fun gameplay. Dusk,
Yeah.
I got the poster on my
Yeah.
wall behind me. You know, System Shock by Night Dive is coming out. There are just so many awesome indie games, and the Dread collection, Dread X, which is like sort of a collection of indie horror games. Yeah, a Medieval is another really good example. But support indie devs, because a lot of times, when I say like I play games and I try to find the joy in them, or like the little spark that someone's just trying to communicate with me over, like indie games just have so much heart, and they're
Mm-hmm.
so fun. So you're doing yourself a disservice if you're not paying attention to some of the indie games that are coming out nowadays, and definitely hop on that and look at some of those. I'm doing them a disservice because I can't name them all off the top of my head,
You've
especially
named
after a couple
plenty.
beers.
You've named
Yeah.
plenty. It's
Okay, good.
like that's also the place where you get to see a lot of people like really experimenting, like with cool techniques, with cool mechanics, like
Hmm.
build a game around something that AAA studio is not going to take a risk on. You can see a lot of that
Yeah.
in indie.
Yeah, there's a lot of creativity. Like they are limited in their resources, and this is sort of a design philosophy that we talk about. It's so the box that they operate in is very small. Oh, Gloomwood, that's another one you need to look at. Gloomwood.
Gloomwood? I've not heard of that one.
Gloomwood, yeah, dude, that one's gonna be awesome. I'm really excited about that. Like if you like, it's by Dylan Rogers and the guys at New Blood, David Zemansky,
Oh, okay.
uh, Dave Oshry, and I'm very excited about Gloomwood. There's a demo out that I believe is playable. Um,
Okay.
so anyway, what was I saying? So they're limited, but that means that they kind of get to be extremely creative in that box.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you see the inventory system that they have in Gloomwood, it's going to blow your mind. Like it puts most AAA games to shame in just how smooth and creative it is. And like
Interesting.
there are a ton of mechanics across indie games that do that because they have the flexibility and the time to, and no, not the time necessarily, but they have the flexibility and to work on stuff like that.
Dude, listen. All right. If you know me at all, I'm going to read the headline to this game. Trapped in a dark Victorian city, check. Consumed by an ancient curse, cool. Must plan your survival and daring escape using nothing but stealth, love, like that. Like you could stop right there and I'm in. But then an arsenal of eccentric weapons and your wit. Like that sounds amazing. Yeah, I'm going to add that to my list right now. Oh yeah, they have a playable demo. You're actually,
yeah, check it out.
They're going to put this in the chat.
Their URL is thiefwithguns.com.
Nice. That's yeah. I want to download this right now. Like,
dude, yeah, check it out, man. Let me know what you think, because they're really great people. Like I'll be just totally upfront. Like I know them,
yeah,
like just through Twitter and through conventions and just like we sort of run in the same like the QuakeCon and stuff, the boomer shooter circles. But yeah, so yeah, there we go. I'm plugging Gloomwood. Gloomwood is awesome. I'm very excited for it. It looks super cool.
yeah. I'm going to check that out. That looks great.
Yeah, even like objectively, I think it looks awesome.
All right, man. We've done it.
Sweet.
You've spent 2 hours telling amazing stories about your great career, and you've had a lot of beer, and you've said a lot of words. So
I have. Yeah, that's what I hear. That's what they say about me.
So
oh yeah, Faith. I'd be remiss to not mention Faith as
Oh,
well.
what's
That's
Faith?
by Airdorf. Sorry, I could talk about indie games for hours, but
I love it.
dude, you should check out Faith, dude. That's
The
another one.
Unholy Trinity.
Yeah, it's gonna scare your ass off. Like it is legitimately creepy, and it's so unique. Like it's just, something you would never get out of AAA. Like it's super cool.
All right.
Anyway, yeah, you were wrapping up. Sorry.
Oh
I
no,
interrupted.
you're good. I was actually going to ask if there's anything else you wanted to make sure we hear about, or any last comments before we go.
Mhm. Yeah. The last thing I'll say is give Fallout 76 a chance because it's awesome. I've been playing so much Fallout 76 and I'm having a blast. Like, come play with me.
All right, I have it, man. Let's do it. Let's play it.
Nice.
I've barely touched it, so let's do that. Let's make that
Oh,
happen.
dude, it's so good now.
I've heard that from several people, so that's very, very exciting. Now
Me
it's
and
about
Will have
finding
played.
time.
Yeah, we should play. We should all hop on and play.
All right, let's do that. That sounds good.
Sweet.
All right, man. I'm gonna jump off here and say my goodbyes. Thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate you and you taking the time to do this.
No problem, man. Thank you so much for having me. It was a blast.
Awesome. We'll find an excuse for you to come back on again soon.
Yes.
All right, man.
Always down.
Sweet. All right, man. Have a good one. I will talk to you soon.
You too.
Later,
Bye.
buddy.